Most people are getting AI to do the wrong jobs, and then they're wondering, why am I not seeing value from my AI projects? And guess what? Sometimes the AI operators are not immune from that. So today we discuss some of our stories where we perhaps haven't been executing and using the AI in all the places we should have, and then how we pivoted and then started using the AI to do things that we probably should have. So join us for some real stories from the field around how we are learning from our own mistakes, and maybe you don't need to make those mistakes and you can get a head start. So join us as we ponder the question, was this made for another reality?
I like the beard though, Matt.
That's a great segue, Richard. Like the beard.
He's looking very chiseled and trendy and neat. And I've just noticed him grooming it over the months, and I think he's doing a good job.
I think it's the haircut too. Like he's looking sharp on the sides.
He is.
There's been no haircut.
He washed it. No.
I'm very due for a haircut. That was actually my second cost savings things I was telling you about, Dave. I'm going to cut back on haircuts now. I've been cutting my hair since COVID. But yeah, thank you, Richard. Honestly, it's like it's like shaping a hedge. It grows back, you trim it back. It grows back, you trim it.
I had a friend, and multiple times over months and years of knowing him, you'd go, "Have you lost weight?" He's like, "No, just trimmed the beard." That's like, "Have you trimmed the beard?" No, just lost weight. It was always you'd pick the wrong one.
Yeah.
So my girlfriend, I was trimming because my hair for my age, it's very thick. I have a lot of hair. Hairdresser's fawn over my hair. How come you got so much hair? It's so thick. My grandfather had all his hair till he was 98, sorry. Anyway, I got one of those self-trimmer things. And I was, and when it gets long, I think like, well, I waste my time to go to that barber and give him $40-50 for a 5-minute haircut. So I've been doing it myself. And then on this side, I cut it a little too short.
Oh.
And then I was starting to look like Kyle Sandilands. You know, he's got it shaved on the side and he's got the hair going. And my girlfriend said, that is it. Either I cut it or you go to the barber. So as you can see, I went to the barber, but the barber was laughing so much because there was so many short bits here and a long bit there and a bit sticking up there.
We're using a suck cut.
Sorry?
We're using a suck cut.
Yeah,
from Wayne's World. That's like, well, it certainly does suck.
Yeah, it's a technique to learn to do it yourself. It's really
and in the mirror
easy.
With the wrong hand on the wrong side, you think you're going this way, but you're going that way. It's very difficult.
I take the pun sometimes and try and do the back of the neck and you're doing these and going, I hope I'm not like ruining my hairline. I'm trying to
yeah. Mine's like overdue right now, but yeah, I do the whole thing. I've got clippers, the different sizes and whatnot, and I've got like specific areas that I do certain things. And then when I get to the top, I literally take all the combs off the clipper, and I like rake my hair like that, and I'll cut these pieces off.
Oh, you're getting advanced. You're like just Mr. Advanced. You're like you are with your AI. You're just getting right in on the advanced stuff. That's scary.
My hairdresser. I gotta get a robot that can do it for me now, though.
Be careful. Because you're just doing it flat. Which my hairdresser, she sort of holds the thing up and then she does like little angle cuts across it to try and do
layering.
Yeah,
I needed the short hair anyway because I'm heading off for surfing in Indonesia, and when you're in big waves in the middle of the ocean, and your hair falls down across your eyes, and you can't see what you're doing, it's a pain. So had to get ready.
Have you progressed in your? You mentioned last week a little bit of stiffness.
Yes, I'm stiff. I've got Celine Dion disease, stiff body disease. Goodness. I had some. It's very sad, but it's like everything we do. When you see yourself doing something, you imagine you're just fantastic and you look like Kelly Slater. And then I go on the Urban Surf video and I go, oh my God, I look like a retard trying to, an idiot trying to get up and do that stuff. So I am progressing. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
You look like one of those, the Barbie Ken dolls on a surfboard. Just
not much movement. And we're like really stiff like this again. I think I'll do a re-entry, but it's really slow and then I fall off.
Oh, well, you're doing more surfing than any of the rest of us.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't be. I'm just giving surfers a bad name. Anyway, so it's all good fun, but thank you for asking. How is it in? Sorry, go on, mate.
I was going to say we're at time. I mean, it's great to all this catch up, but people are here for a show, so we should probably do a show.
Okay, go, sir.
Good to have you all here for this week's show. There's lots happening in the news, in AI, in the world. I mean, beyond surfing and stiffness, I mean, businesses are stiff, right? Let's use that for a segue. Businesses are stiff in their adhesion to old ways and the inertia of change and movement and doing things. There's a lot going on out there, and we're going to talk about it today and how we're using it, how we're seeing our businesses using it, customers, clients, everyone's coming at it from different angles, right? So that's what we're here to do. We're gonna do some new segments this week, and I'm gonna have to let the show know up front for people that are watching and listening. I'm gonna be here for about half the show. Then I'm gonna kind of go remote and try and connect in from my mobile because I'm doing some volunteering for a not-for-profit to go do some consulting for them around AI and usage. So the way timing works and the size of Sydney, they wanted it at 1:30, and I said no, I've got a podcast till 1 o'clock. I can't do that. They said 2:30. I was like, I can probably make 2:30. And then when I looked at the time frames of where it is, where I am, travel times, I was like, that's okay there. But then here's where AI failed me completely. Actually, it wasn't AI. It was just me. I thought it was school holidays this week, but it's not. So I thought my kids were going to be home and it was cool. I can go out. I can come back. My kids are old enough. That's fine. Didn't realize this is the last week of school. And so I was like, great. I'm not going to be back in time. That's fine. They can walk home from school. Then find out my daughter's got like this musical recital thing they do once a term at 6 p.m. And I'm like, oh my goodness. It's like it might be an hour drive now for me to get to this place, but coming home in peak hour at 4:30, it could be 2+ hours. There's no way I'm going to make it back. So I'm like, great. Now I've got to flip to the train. And so by catching a train means I've got to be on a train at 12:45 during the podcast. So even though I moved it to 2:30 so I could do my podcast because of family commitments that I didn't realize I was going to have. I've got to catch trains now because the train's more reliable in peak hour. And anyway, so I don't know how AI will fix me with that. I do get my daily briefings from Claude Co-work every day, but
just train access to your calendar. They're like, hey, this is everything that's going on. Plug it to everything.
I mean, we talk about context and giving all these tools the information they need, right? Like I had someone reach out on LinkedIn saying, hey, would love to connect, talk more about AI, and we're putting some Claude into our business. Love to have a chat. I'm like, cool. Here's my calendar link. Go book it in. And they booked it for 5 p.m. on Friday, which in Australia, you just don't book things at 5 p.m. on a Friday. They're in Hamburg. They're not even here. Like they're overseas somewhere. So they're in a completely different time zone. So I get it. But also I'm like,
in the morning.
But I'm also like, why didn't my calendar automatically know it's a public holiday and block out Good Friday? I'm not doing calls on Good Friday.
You've got to start the calendar.
So I mean, again, I didn't supply the context of the calendar. I thought cal.com automatically brought in public holidays. It doesn't. I thought maybe my own Google Calendar would automatically block out a public holiday. It didn't. So as magical as all these tools are, as humans, we still need to be in the loop and take some ownership to set them up to get the results we want, right?
The example of anti-AI, there's a good friend of mine having done many startups with US or New York-based, California-based companies. He went on stage to accept a sales award for the whole APAC region. He was a sales director. And he took a basketball with him. And he got on stage in front of thousands of these people. And he held up the basketball. He put an X on one side, an X on the other, and shone a light on one of the X's. Mm-hmm. And he said, now, if the sun is shining in New York, do not call us or book a meeting because you'll get nothing, right? Because training people that we are in an unusual time zone is a challenge. And AI, I'm hoping, is going to solve all of those problems.
I mean, people are using voice AI and doing things. Sorry, Matt.
I was going to say something architecturally. It needs to be set up in the context management. So it's literally the engineering of the agents and the AI that you're setting up force it to get the accurate date and time zone.
Exactly. It's like the early days of the internet where, you're logging into a website and they want to know who you are and they ask you to put in a zip code, but they'd only accept a 6-letter zip code because it was a US-based written input. We've got all of those same things with AI now, like, LTAM and all the directories and that make everything in syntax work compatibility. They're all out the door again until we get these plugins, which is probably my first poised question I had for today, if I'm not derailing us. How are we going in the AI industry with making everything from the orchestration, like OpenClaw and all of that, so that the plugins are consistent and they know how to talk to each other? What's happening there?
Well, before we do that, can I just do this?
Welcome to the AI Update. Let's look at what's happening in the news.
Well done.
Not
We're
expecting
getting so professional.
That felt like a good segue for a news stinger around what's happening with development in AI. So.
Go. I'll shut up.
I mean, to your question, Richard, for me, I need to sort of understand what you mean by plugins, because if you just think of the way that applications communicate, you need to have that application or API layer, the programmable interface.
Yeah.
And people are trying to do things, like MCP is a version of that. But at the end of it, the raw root, all it's doing is curl requests, essentially, web fetch, post, get, put, delete, update. Like that's all these things are, and they're already standardized.
Although, Matt, there is a trend happening because, and I think we're going to see this, and we'll cover this in the next news article a little bit, but a lot of this AI stuff is moving to the edge. And we talk about sovereignty and owning your data, and we talk about local models and owning your models. More and more compute is actually pushing out to the edges again. Like, well, this is the whole pendulum thing, right? Everything got centralized, and then it was like server client, and then the clients became more powerful. We did more stuff on the client and on the phones, and then we moved back to some server stuff with all the AI models being in the cloud and server. And now we're pushing back to the edge. We've got this constantly back and forth of where does compute and knowledge and data live? Is it centralized or is it on the edges? And power grids, everything's the same, right? But on that, like curl request, that's when everything lives out in the server. But now as people want to do more things locally, more and more services are producing the CLIs, the command line interfaces and interpreters. So that way the locally running models and locally running data on the edge, rather than just like flicking stuff out and re-authenticating every time to an external thing, they're talking to a local little terminal interface, the CLI, which pre-authenticates in. And so then they're communicating locally to this local executable. It's managing all that external stuff, but it's making it easier for the agents to just sort of have one throat to choke and just talk directly to these CLI tools versus thousands of web requests. I mean, Matt, feel free to argue that point, but I think we're seeing more of that, like Kraken, the trading platform, brought out their own CLI this week.
It really, like, you sort of need to just know the primitives of what the CLI is and what's actually happening under the scenes, because it's the same thing. Like if you interact with, from the terminal or from whatever, like program to program on your device, there's no web request, there's no HTTP there, of course, because it's same. So at that point, it's just a function call.
It's just running bash commands in the terminal.
Yeah, it's literally a function. Like, the simplest way to put it is it's just a function call. So like the idea of standardizing kind of already is there, but the best question, and this is the way that I design stuff, is, was this designed for a previous reality? Is there a better way now that removes friction and is more agentically scalable? And that's where my knowledge core thing.
I like that statement, remove friction. I was playing with David, and thank you for my introduction to building my own agents and doing all things like that. I was playing with some ideas during the week, and every time I wanted it to go find some data for me, I think, there's a publicly available amount of data, and it would come back and say, you've been blocked. It doesn't allow you to make these calls into that space.
So that's your co-work security settings protecting you.
Yeah, but the other database was telling me, no, you're not allowed to call with this program.
That's the website stopping robots and crawlers from...
Yeah, for example, LinkedIn or Pilot or one of those.
Yeah.
So it comes back to the whole scenario, which I used to say a while ago, who owns the data? And your data is worth a lot of money.
Yeah. So Matt, on your point around the interfaces and where they built for the current generation, and so we're seeing this evolution of more providers providing CLIs, so that way that provider controls the local authentication on your desktop. You run their tool, they manage the authentication for you back to their services, so they're happy that that's more secure. And then your agent talks to their tool versus your tool trying to do all the authentication stuff. The video you shared with me this morning around a JavaScript vulnerability actually talked about this in depth. There's a library that people have been using for some time, apparently not me, called Axios.
Cool.
And in the video, and Axios has got this massive compromise where people do bad things, and they've found special ways to trick backdoor entries into sharing all your keys, and if you're a developer that's used Axios, check this out. But he made the point that Axios was there to fill a gap in the core technology, and now with fetch requests and things in Node, it's actually redundant and you don't really need it, but it's still there. So it's an example of a technology that was built for a previous generation architecture, right?
Yeah, it was literally for developer experience. When we're all writing code, it was a way of abstracting complexity and fetch requests and HTTP handling that just made it easier and simpler. So everyone used it and everyone has been using it. And in the past, with any supply chain vulnerability, the security advice has always been make sure you're using the most up-to-date stable releases of packages so that you get those security patches. This particular hack came from the most up-to-date versions. So there's two specific versions where it actually went through. And yeah, you're right, Dave. Like if you it's coming to the point that the most insecure command that you can run on your system is npm install, because if there is some sort of supply chain issue that hasn't previously been detected, like this one was nuts. Like you install it, it runs its things, and then it completely clears its history so that you can't see that it existed, but it put its thing on your computer already.
Wow.
Yeah, intense.
When I hear about hacking on scale, I think about SQL injection that hung around for a fair while before someone solved that as a problem. To be able to hack a website, for those not technical like me in the audience, SQL injection was a way of using the internet to find databases that you could crack the password, and you ran the application code inside the web browser, and it went in and hacked inside everyone's password with a plus or minus, high, low, and worked out passwords based on the error code that came back from the server. I remember a few years ago, I got shown that, and I typed it. It came back with 44 million vulnerable servers, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean,
imagine there's still a amount out there. Like I worked with a company last week where they were using a custom PHP program, and that custom PHP program had it was an info.php, which shows you what the system details are and also where it's hosted, and sometimes even the username and password, what's going on. Like there's so much where people just have not done the fundamentals. But a quick fun one to answer Joanna, and then also I think addressing Sean, just saying good morning. But you were talking before about getting stuff from LinkedIn, Richard, and a cheeky way I found is you can't necessarily get it to use API request or HTTP, even if you get like a developer app that you have to go through the process of. But if you go into your browser, you press F12, go into developer tools, you can get AI to write your little script that'll scrape that entire page. So what I've done is I've gone to like a couple of people that are quite influential, like Alex Ramosi, for example. And he's got a bunch of posts on there. I'll look at the link for all these posts. I'll give that to AI, and then it developed a little scraper that you can do inside your console, and it just scrapes all of it within a second. And then I use that to now make a playbook based on all the chats that he's had rather than his books. It's now pulling from like these little nuggets of information, and then it made it into a play-by-play playbook.
That, I hadn't actually done that, but it occurred to me while I was doing it based on the stuff David showed me earlier in the week. Could I go, how do I hack LinkedIn?
it's if you can talk to it like Matt said, if you talk to it like a person, if you can talk to people, you can talk to it. It's just how do you communicate and what instructions do you give? Like how many touch points? There's a great video about someone teaching their kids how to make peanut butter sandwiches. And it's like, okay, write the instructions. And then he goes to make it. And it said, okay, take the peanut butter, put it on the bread. And then he grabs the whole jar. Like you have to be specific with your instructions.
Yes, that's how I used to run that in executive thought leadership workshops. And we blindfold someone and tell someone else to describe what they should do. And they ended up doing pretty stupid things. And that's it. I mean, this clarity of communication is at the core of it all, isn't it?
Like that sort of logic too, where you can just spin up your local agent in whatever systems you're using, start learning, express a need, a desire, some sort of situation that you need help with. And you can not only like come away from that conversation with so much more learning yourself, so much more awareness of what you can do in those scenarios too. Like one thing that I love doing now is, if you have your agents on your system, they have access to your system, right? So if you think of it from like a security hacker perspective, because we've spoken about that a little bit so far, that's about keeping people out of your system. And it's not only for stealing information, but it's for controlling your system too, right? Like you don't want them to be able to, hack your webcam and, take pictures and stuff like that. So I had a scenario this morning where this particular camera wasn't working. And, I was on a Zoom call and I had my laptop camera chosen and I couldn't choose the other one. And I was like, flabbergasted. But I was like, let me just quickly open up, my terminal agent. And I'm going to say, hey, I've got this camera. I use it every day. What's going on? And I got it to go through, find the device, find all the device settings, all of that stuff that, you don't want anyone else to see. And I said, okay, cool, run some diagnostics. Like, let's figure it out. It activated the camera. I saw the permission request pop up on my screen from macOS saying, hey, something's trying to access. So I was like, yeah, allow. And then it took a still. It used FFmpeg to take a still from the camera. And I was like, okay, just to prove that you actually did take that picture, what color shirt am I wearing? And I was like, well, it's a burgundy maroon kind of shirt. I'm like, okay, well, clearly you got it to work. So the camera works fine. So what the hell, Zoom? But yeah, like just another example of use the tool because it knows more than you do in a way. And like,
I saw a very scary video of a guy turning up to an Airbnb place, and not a very technical person like you guys, just a bit of a moron like me. And they sat down and they were worried about hidden cameras in this Airbnb, and he got into this habit. So he used AI to hack the router and find out what devices were connected. And of course, it showed all the devices on the router and a webcam.
Yep.
So he clicked on that and found the camera was behind him on the light, and he could see himself at his computer hacking the router.
There you go. Another perfect example.
By the way,
That's
to all
wild.
hunters out there, do that. When you go somewhere,
And that's
hack the router using AI. It'll help you get in there, find the IP addresses, and then click on it and find out.
that's that's what I talked about last week, where I salvaged the recording of a USB recorder.
Yeah.
Like the AI was able to help me image the file system and then use the right tools to interrogate it, find the unallocated file sitting in the back end of the file table that just hadn't been registered as a file name, and then bring it to the surface. Like that is specialist expertise knowledge that humans can do, and humans could use the same tools to do, but it would probably take them a lot longer. It would take me an incredible long amount of time to work out what tools to use, where to point them, how to configure them, what to look for, whereas the AI was preloaded with that pattern knowledge and able to just do that. On the LinkedIn thing, though, the other hack is if you're comfortable doing this, and it's, I can't say it's 100% safe, but you can give it a go, is it's got if you've installed the Chrome, like you're using Claude Cowork, if you're using the Claude for Chrome
we
plugin,
installed that.
you can actually just say, open Chrome and go look at these pages in LinkedIn using your Chrome browser. And as long as you're logged in as Richard, it'll yeah. So but it's just built into the workflow.
I did that with a whole bunch of X articles. So I use the Playwright CLI because I just find it more token efficient and faster. But yeah, with Playwright CLI, you can get it to start a persistent session, which just basically means that every call it does, it's like having your browser open. And then you can also get it to quickly open up headed mode, which brings up the browser for the screen, log in, and then it will just shut headed mode again for you and keep going on that session. And I got it to go through all of my bookmarks on X. Like anyone who's an X user out there that just constantly saves to bookmark, but never does anything with them. I've put all those inside my knowledge core now so that I can reference them and use them.
Marno, you look like you had something to say there, sir.
No, it's so much fun, man. I keep thinking about how much we're able to achieve, and although we're using simple tools, especially the last few days, going back to first principles, and also not taking for granted what we have. I'm saying that to say that tool that Matt has built for himself, that would be an industry. That would be a massive business. Like, why are we skipping over these opportunities because we take it for granted because it's so easy? Like there's a couple applications from last week that I didn't build anything unique. It took me 5 minutes, but it made my life easier. And if all we're trying to do is to help people live better lives using AI, I feel like I'm taking this mindset, at least towards myself, that I'm doing a disservice by not creating that product for them to use, even if it's a free app or if it's just, hey, install guide. But there's so many people that I'm meeting that are so stressed and they're working 60-hour weeks and with little to show for it because they just don't know how to use the right tools.
Yeah,
I'm constantly playing in that mindset of like, there's so many things that we could be building or packaging and then shipping. And sure, OpenAI might do an update tonight that makes it all redundant, but we could at least be trying to like build up this catalog of toolkits that people could be using.
I find watching you guys like watching a locksmith. You ever get locked out of your house and you go, oh my God, I can't have my keys, I don't get in. You're thinking of smashing a window or kicking the door down. The kids might be inside or the dog's inside, you can't get in. And then the locksmith turns up and goes, done. And that's I find watching you guys like that.
I bought a lockpicking set off Amazon or something just to play around with it and practice it. It is insanely difficult, even with the see-through lock, and you can see what's happening with the pins, and you're like, "This is how did like it's actually really really tricky to pick a lock if you don't know what you're doing."
I've got 5 test locks here, or 4, that I can literally pull apart and repin, and they come with like a little key. Nice. But yeah, I got those like sets too. That was just another random like ADD hobby, like mini obsession.
A million years ago, I bought a set of bump keys that was sort of pre-cut, and like I think most of them are for American style locks. None of them actually like fit our sort of like Lockwood locks here in Australia and stuff. So it was a complete waste of money. But I ended up with this little key ring of like bump keys that I've never ever used. I think it's because, you know, this classic story, you get locked out of somewhere once that you really should be able to get into, and you're like, I'm never going to get locked out of this place again, and so you do these things.
You know, with that lock picking stuff, I cracked every single lock that I ever like came across, except for this one that is for the power meter. Like it was in one of our old rentals, and it's, I guess, to like lock the power meter shut or something, but it's for the electrical services to use. Yeah. So the key in that and like the pins and whatever in that was just, I don't know, just on the concept of hard locks. That was like the most intense one.
We just finished watching the last Mission Impossible film where they've got the cruciform key where it's like these 2 interlocking cross keys to make this special cross lock to unlock the AI or the submarine thing or whatever it is.
The bomb out of the sub.
Yes. Anyway, let's do this short segment and then we'll jump into our last segment, and then I'm going to sort of step away and let you guys discuss, and I'll try and jump in maybe audio only, but I love AI. Wins
I'm loving the titling, mate.
The first one I said, make wins of the week for a podcast called AI Operators, and it said wins of the week, AI right. Like the second word was gibberish. I'm like, drop the AI Operators word, make it more celebratory, and I was like, wins of the week, and I'm like, I'm just running with that. That's fine. Thank you, Google VO, for your generation. So I in part-time am a treasurer at my church for volunteer roles, and we had our AGM on the weekend, and I faced the issue of pulling data out of Xero and reconciling files and trying to map our sort of budget draft in a spreadsheet to this and bring all the totals in, and inevitably all this back and forth, you forget to carry something over from one spreadsheet to the other, or you've summarized something there and one number just doesn't fit, and someone calls you out on it when you're sort of discussing the numbers. And it's not a big deal, but it's just like, come on, you work so hard trying to make sure all this thing fixes, and someone spots that one little typo in your numbers, and you're like, come on, you just feel like an idiot. So I came home from that and went, that's it. I'm building a tool now. So I've spent the week building a church budget, finance, operating dashboard that integrates to Xero, so I can pull the data in, and I'm going to get all my live reports. I'm going to get better charting and reporting than I've ever had before, and we're going to be able to draft our new budgets, seeing the actual numbers from the previous year, and review all of that and do what-if analysis. And it's just incredible these tools are there. And if only I'd used them 48 hours earlier, would have really helped me with my AGM report. But, you know, that's how we learn. You trial by fire and you go, that didn't work. Well, what is a better way of doing that? And
I read it, David, like that. I read a great article from a very experienced lady who was a CFO for a regional business. and she had an understudy coming under her from about 24 years old, and the board's sitting there. Okay, give us the news, the reports. And it was totally true, and I can reference that. So she'd worked for a week on all her reports and bits and pieces and stuff like that, and she had the paper document ready to flip and go through for everyone. And the young understudy obviously turned up to hijack her, sadly, turned up with an interactive display, all written in AI, which he'd done, not a programmer, but leveraged on some people like us that gave him the impetus and the knowledge to do it. And within 5 minutes, he'd communicated everything they wanted to know in a live and she was sitting there with a 2-week prepared paper document going, and they said, yeah, you've put that on the table. We'll look at it next week. And of course, that means we will never look at it. And she was talking about how someone new in the game who worked with people like us to get across the AI had just gazumped her, and she left the room thinking, I think my job's over because I've been doing this for ages, and he just turned up. He hasn't been here long. He's 24, and he's gone bang, 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 and they got everything they needed. And this acceleration of personal efficiency, married with key subject matter expert objectives required, is where things are really moving fast and happening. And so like with your church or any, that's happening everywhere.
But in my example, like I'm in this space, I'm building these solutions, I have the tools and equipment, but you just habits. We've always done the budget this way. We've got our Google sheet and we copy these numbers and we paste that there. And that's how we do it until you realize the way we're doing it is not working and it's not good enough. But a lot of people don't realize that there's something else they should be doing instead.
Yeah, and I tried to explain to a friend of mine who runs a very successful business. He's been doing it for 16 years. Really well. And I said, hey, mate, just step over the fence, come over here and look at the AI thing. Yeah. And he is a fabulous human being and one of the best process-driven, articulate workers I've ever seen. And he loves to get this from his accounting system, and then he translates it here, and then he puts it in there, and it goes into his MYOB, and it goes off to the accountant. And I said to him, you don't have to do that. But he's not comfortable. He just will not step out of that because to his mind, he needs to check all those steps as they go forward. A bit like a person who likes to drive a car with a manual versus an automatic. I mean, the computers in automatics now will change the gears in whatever mode you want, much better than a human could.
Once it's established and you know it's reliable, the issue with AI is that non-deterministic issue where it's not always A equals B. But anyway, that's a half win. Like it was that I'm moving in that direction. Now I'm fighting zero authentication and trying to work out how to do all that sort of stuff. So they're absolutely ready, but it's looking great. Any other wins from any? I know we've discussed it in the first half, but any key things where you go, yes, winner.
But I'd like to just add a few things there and also read some of the comments. Catherine said, I'm wondering if Marno knows how to scale the roof and find his way from ceiling. Maybe a couple times. And then Joanna's one, he has everything except the wisdom and the experience. And I think that's a comment to the bloke that you're talking about, Richard. And I'd say this is something that's probably getting a bit like it's getting on my nerves. Like it's annoying me where there's people that are so qualified and so great at what they do, and they see someone else that's younger than them come in, or just someone that has a different approach to it, come in with AI and say, oh, my job's over. What am I going to do? Like Alex Hormozy had this guy on the podcast or whatever talks he did, and they do websites. And the guy's like, well, I don't know what to do anymore because everyone can make a website now, and it's super, super easy, and it costs nothing. And then I'm worried my business is going to die. And Alex Hormozy basically turns around and says, well, there's this new great tool called AI. Have you heard of it? And he's so scared of it. He's like, oh, it's going to replace me. It's like, no, just use the tool. And then everyone benefiting from it being easy. And like, it's you're capped at your experience and it amplifies your existing skills. If you know more, then you're going to be able to produce more. If I try and do a presentation on sales versus Richard doing a presentation on sales, would look vastly different because Richard knows more promptly. He understands the language. If I have to do one about IT or AI, I can do that because I know all the acronyms. But it scales your knowledge. And I think that's just a pain point where people need to stop giving themselves the quick out of like, oh no, I'm going to be replaced. It's like, if a kid can learn it, then you can learn it. Like,
you're exactly right. And this particular CFO, which was for a multinational organization, reset her perspective, and it is subject matter experts with the right tools and the right resources and data available. And it's like I say, if you know the question, you've got access to the data, and you've got the skill to use the tools, then you're going to lead the world, right? So no one's going to be made redundant, and everyone will just be more efficient. And I laughed at a friend of mine recently who was, well, I've got a lot of friends, and they go, oh, it's great. When I go to put in my proposal for my clients, I cut and paste all the information about who they are. I cut and paste all the information about my products on the web, and I merge them together, and I send the proposal in. That's a good way to lose, because all you're doing, as we always say on this podcast, all you're doing is grabbing the sum net average of information available in the public marketplace, right? And as we know, Dr. Google is not always right. But as a subject matter expert, you know what to look for, and you know the unique questions that will isolate and competitively excel you into a zone that no one can get to. And if you get lazy and think, oh, this is easy, I'll just cut, paste, use LLMs, off I go, you're going to lose. Always, every time.
It's always been humans versus humans are better tools. Like we're just, as the tools evolve, we evolve. And it's probably not the best analogy, but like farming, like you could give a farmer a tractor and then he's going to build a crop and he's just going to do very lavish things. Or you can give me a tractor and I'm going to try and go through a wall so I can like do some reconstruction. Because if you don't know how to use the tool set, then it's pointless. Like there's different ways of using the tool, but if it's purpose built, and another analogy is probably like when you're going to someone's house and they say they want a drill. So actually, no, you just want a hole in the wall, don't you? So then what's the best tool to get you there? Maybe it's a drill, maybe it's a hammer. What are we trying to accomplish, and getting really clear on the outcome.
And that's the best metaphor, right? If all I've got is a hammer, I'll see every problem as a nail. If you ask me to build the back fence and I'm a plumber, I'm going to use pipes because that'll look normal too. When I probably should.
That's beautifully put. That's going in my little diary, man. That's great.
I've got a book coming out soon. Anyway, so metaphors to use. So exactly as you're saying, Marno, and David was alluding to, and Matt was describing earlier, that your knowledge now as a subject matter expert or an inquiring mind, as I like to refer to it, is much more valuable with AI than it was in the past. Excel did not make us all accountants, okay? Excel made us a bit more efficient no matter who we were, but the accountant still knows the rules. And in a recent litigation matter, a friend of mine said, oh, I'm going to do this myself. I'm not going to use the lawyer, right? I said, okay. So they go into, using all the information they could on an LLM to draw and it even wrote the request letter. It did the brief for the court. It did everything. And they used it all and it achieved nothing because the legal ability to leverage and negotiate was not there. Just pure blank regurgitating legal rhetoric.
A good example of that.
To a lawyer, they won't. Sorry?
A good example of that sort of thing is when you see some sort of politician or it could be the prime minister or whatever, come up and they start saying a speech, and they're talking away and they're saying a lot of words, but nothing is being said.
Yes.
It's the same sort of like soulless information that you can be resultant with if you don't put your own spin on it by your own taste and your own experiences.
Yeah, that's where the competitive advantage. My father, who was an inventor, an Asperger, a pretty interesting guy and ran an ad agency for 50 years and did all these things. He said, Richard, the person that invented the hair clip for women did not make money and was not successful. But the person who invented the hair clip for women and then put those little kinks in it so that it stayed in the hair, that person became very successful. And I think about that when I think about AI. So information is now becoming democratized on a mass scale. That is, getting information is not hard now. And it's going to be even easier and easier. And I say that information will become a free, totally democratized, available resource in the next few years for everyone.
Yeah.
Just a complete, I want to know, yes, there's the answer. What do you do with it? And without the skill of understanding.
Thanks, Joanna.
Yeah, exactly. Who said, what are the other weekly wins?
Yeah, we stopped after Dave's, we stopped.
We did. We should get back to the weekly wins. Any more weekly wins? Come on, Matt, you've got something for us. I'll put my
All
glasses
right.
on so I can read the chat.
It's very, very hard to summarize my wins this week because there's been a lot. But I'll say one small sort of story for you, Joe. This one might be interesting. And also thank you for tuning into the idea of copy and pasting, because as soon as I heard that as well, I was like, So yeah, my win this week is actually along the same lines. So I'm not sure if you remember last week, I mentioned I had a couple of really big client meetings coming up, and the one for the local IT service provider, like the managed service provider, that was intense. Like when I really think about it, it was really intense for somebody who's never been involved really in any kind of executive corporate communication and sitting in a boardroom with the big dudes like looking down at you. That it was huge. So like for me, getting in there and getting out of that meeting successfully, and I think doing a fairly decent job and like talking through them and meeting these guys, it was really cool. It was really exciting and it was fun. And they actually said a lot of really heavy hitting and impactful statements during that meeting, where one of the guys literally said, in relation to me and others in this space, like all of you listening as well, he said, we don't have someone like you, and if we don't find someone like you, we won't be around in the next 5 years.
That is very true.
It was huge. And when they said that, I was like, whoa, okay, fair enough. So yeah.
As long as they gave you a blank check after they said that, Matt, of course.
Yeah. Well, I basically recorded the whole meeting with their permission, of course, and went home and started just digging into the transcript, finding out exactly what it is that they were asking for, what they needed, what their first steps would be, what that would look like for me to do it for them. I put out a couple of different pathways with different stacks, different methodology. But in order for me to generate that proposal, put that together, one of their things that they needed was reporting, and regular structured reporting. And like you guys were saying before, the non-deterministic nature of the output that you get from an AI system means you need to have certain things in place to make it more deterministic, probabilistically better, at each time. In the process of creating this proposal, I created the system that would create their reports for my own proposal.
Because it's a very close parallel, right? Again, it comes back to what is the question, and the best question I got given in my career very early, and I used to, as a young, shoot my mouth off, Phil, when I was very young, as an engineer, I go to a lot of those meetings, Matt. I know exactly how you feel, and it's not your world, and it's their business, and the best one is, whenever I used to get lost, I'd just stop and say, what is the problem we are trying to solve? And I think when we ask that question more and more, an example was I worked at IBM for many years, and someone came out with a report and said that IBM produced over 40,000 individual reports that no one ever read anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And we're heading into, I think, that territory with AI, right? So someone says, I need reports. And you say to them, well, what's the problem you're trying to solve? Oh, I need to know when the price gets over this, or a customer feels like that. Okay, let's have it so you don't have to read those reports, because it's just a waste of time. How about if my tool takes you from there to there, right? I'll give you continuance so you can check the data as it flows past, but why keep reading the reports? Why not just have it come out here? And then your experience, your subject matter experience will go, now I know what to do with that situation. And that's what we're doing. And that's why I say information is going to be democratized. It's going to be open to everyone from every corner of the planet.
100%. Like for these guys, the way that I see their reports and like what they wanted is kind of similar to if you're in a shopping mall and you purchase something and you have that option on the let's be real, the self-scan checkouts, where you can say, yes, I want a receipt, or no, I don't want a receipt. And the green, or like, the save the paper version is the no, I don't want it. But then you're now walking through the shopping center with an item that you have no proof of purchase for necessarily. So
yes,
the reports that these guys are sending out are to each of their clients that they manage their hardware, their software, their systems, their cloud solutions, like all of the things for these individual businesses to run. These guys are sending reports of like, here's all the information that we have of the stuff we've done for you and the statuses over the last week. So it's kind of like a receipt. So I agree that the point of the delivery and the reading of the reports is kind of a little bit erroneous, but the actual data that exists there is the useful thing. And it's more so that these companies understand that these guys are doing something for them, and there's evidence of that. So long story short.
No, you're exactly right. So the example of that is, where are you adding value? Once you know the question, once you know the problem you're trying to solve, everyone's going to be a little more exposed in where are you adding value, right? Now, here's the data. What do I do with it? What's the next decision with your experience? And it comes down to, I think, the human element. People understanding how humans react or need and what their needs are. You can personalize that, right? I was having a conversation with a friend recently, and we're going to go overseas on holidays, and I was talking about the fundamentals of the sort of footwear you should wear in the environment we're going to. It's not a pair of thongs, because that doesn't work, and you're walking on coral and you're walking on some rocks under, and thongs come off in the water. So there's a particular, and they said, oh, great, let's go look around the shops. I said, no, let's get on the web and look it up. But I wasn't solving the problem they wanted to solve, right? The problem they wanted to solve is actually wanted to go to a shopping center and walk around. That was their objective, right? It wasn't the shoes at all. But my objective was, well, how do I, like a bloke, how do we get straight to getting that thing? I mean, stuff that shopping experience, but the shopping experience to some people is an aphrodisiac. They love it. It makes them feel good. It pumps their serotonin and their dopamine. So I wasn't solving the right problem. And while what I use is a personal extreme version of what's happening in business and in supply with humans, those things are going to become a lot more important. Do you go to the movie theater or just sit in your own home and do your streaming, right?
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. It's just not the same problem solved, even though the movie's the same.
Different experience. The human experience.
I watched that. And Alex, can you guys hear me? Sorry.
We can, David.
Hello? Excellent.
Yes.
I watched an Alex Hormozy video this morning talking about AI, and he was saying, like, in all these things, you're not replacing a person, you're replacing a workflow. And so we think of these things architecturally, like, I need a marketing agent, but what does the marketer do? What are the actual breakdown of their tasks? And within those tasks, what are the subtasks and the workflows? And then being able to establish the ins and the outs and sort of assign these agents and things to solve workflow problems, not entire role problems, because they're much better when you get more specific. And so back to what you're saying around the problem, what problem do you need to solve? It's not, we need to buy shoes. It's like, we need to have social time, we need to do that. And so the friend bucket, if you just make an agent friend, that's not necessarily going to solve the right problems because the agent friend is too broad. What are the sub workflows that friend agent really needs to be doing? And he sort of likened it almost less back to an org chart and more to a manufacturing line.
Yeah. Oh, look, Joanna just popped in the chat and made a very good point. What does evidence and value mean? Customers like to be kept in the loop, which is what Joanna just said, right? So what does being kept in the loop mean? It means they believe what is happening. They have evidence and a crumb trail to follow and say, I agree with that. I do a fun card trick, which I'll do for you guys one day. And it is a series of things that I do, and then I get the person to tell me what the card is on the top of the deck, right? Now, if I start that card trick and just say, hey, say this name, and I lift up the card, look, you said the name on the top, it has no value at all. But if we go through the card trick process of questions and answers, and we walk around this, then they see, I understand how we got here and why we got there. If people don't know why they got there, it's not worth it. The journey, as Joanne's pointed out, is as important as the answer. And if you can't justify that journey with value and evidence, right, humans don't like it.
A good example of that is notifications. So in a lot of the systems that I build, especially for some of my bigger long-term clients, I have specific Slack channels that are dedicated for giving system updates, things that are happening. So one guy in particular, he does a regular webinar. That's just like the main funnel loop that he does. And I have these specific notifications come through saying webinar started, webinar's finishing, you're putting together the participant list. Okay, the list is loaded. Here's your stats from today's webinar. And like those things happen just on autopilot. And it's evidence of a system that I've built for him, and he gets to see it every single time it happens. So like, that is very much being kept in the loop of the system that's actively running and working. And another one, just really quick, is the same company. I have set up a different channel for actual development updates. So again, for them, I'm using Linear just as like a task management, project management thing. And every time a new issue is created or a status is changed, that goes into that same Slack channel, so he can actually see me working and see all the updates live. Plus, when I've actually merged a PR back to main and we've got new updates on the app, I've got another message that goes, hey, we've got a new version. Here's the new changes. And it's cool because like I don't have to get on the phone. I don't have to book a call. I don't have to do any of that stuff to make sure that they know that I'm there doing work. They just see it happening live.
Yeah, an answer without evidence or proof of how we got there is not really a very good answer, particularly with clients and us and customers, because if we get an outrageous answer or a really big one, we go, why? How did we get here? And then we have to lay out that whole, if it's an agentic AI, we've got to lay out exactly how we got there so people understand. And I honestly think it's going to have a weird impact on humans' decision processes as we go into the front, because there's certain things we trust and there's certain things we don't trust.
Yeah, 100%. There's a quote from one of my favorite agentic engineers that I follow and I get a lot of my information and inspiration from. He specifically says, do not defer your thinking to your agents.
Of course.
Yep.
Defer the process, not the thinking. Defer the data access, not the thinking. So true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really, really interesting point because you start just getting lulled into a false sense of reality when you start just never thinking for yourself.
Well, we all know the conspiracy theorists that get on the web and Google something and think that's the answer, and off they go down a rabbit hole. Yep. God save us from AI doing that for us.
Yeah, another good one. Back in the day, in another life, I used to work at Bunnings. And my favorite situation was somebody coming up to you with their phone in their hand, like shoving it in your face, saying, I Googled this and it says Bunnings has it. And, it wasn't even saying anything. It was just Google giving a sponsored result saying Bunnings. And yeah, that was
my doctor has in Google font on a sign behind him, my degree is a little bit smarter than your 5 minutes Googling.
Yeah. Yeah, literally.
6 years, all this study, cutting up bodies, learning things, and you Google it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. And are you still with us, Dave?
I am indeed. I think that the deferred thinking is interesting because you do, especially once you start building some agents and you've got some good system prompts, and you can get a bit lazy with your prompting because you've set up the tools and the systems to just work for you. I've certainly fallen into this habit where I just, and with OpenClaw, I can't remember if I was talking about this on this call last week or another call I was on, but saying I tried setting up OpenClaw and it hasn't really done much for me because I kind of expected it to be super magical and everyone talked about how great OpenClaw was. So I was pretty vague with it and just expected it to set itself up and do things, and it doesn't. It needs more work and more effort than that. And so it's a reminder that these things aren't magical black boxes. You do need to be more specific. Even that in the news thing where I said it came back with rubbish results from my video, I was really slack. I gave it a really short prompt. I wasn't highly descriptive. I didn't get the AI to write the prompt that is full of all the detail about cinematic angles and do this and use this kind of lighting, which gives you a much better output. But I'm just, sometimes you're in a hurry and you just get lazy. And then it's a good reminder that these things are highly fallible. I think we're out of time to really dive deep into it, but maybe we'll talk about it more next week after everyone's had a bit of a chance to read through it. But Matt Barry, the CEO of Freelancer.com, Australian entrepreneur businessman, he does very thoughtful, very long essays. And his latest one is around AI and token burn and the sustainability of the subscription models like the Claude plans and the OpenAI plans. And he does talk about the fact that,
compared to a human where you see a problem and you analyze it, you assess it, you don't try 50 things that are all stepping over itself and retrying the same thing you tried 3 turns ago because you've forgotten that you tried it 3 turns ago, just burning tokens. But that's what these AIs do. You hit, and if you're doing any kind of coding, anyone who's used these things will notice sometimes it makes mistakes. And when you try to get it to debug itself, it goes down all these rabbit holes that are just completely irrelevant and are just burning tokens for the sake of burning tokens. You've really got to go, hang on, stop, no. And that's where we talk about the engineering side of agentic engineering versus vibe coding, and having those humans and those experts back in the loop, right?
Oh, look, and it's so true. Like I think of the clown at the at the show with its head going back and forth, and everyone putting the ping pong balls in, hoping they're going to win. They're not. And if you think about again, getting back to AI being the subnet average, every time I look at social media, there's another revelation, snake oil salesperson like, and it says, hey, I've got the key prompts for everyone to be able to win the stock market. And it is just like the stock market. It's got to be the stupidest comment ever. Whenever our friends come to me and go, oh, got to get on this stock, it's going to go really, really well. By the time they're telling me it's too late, the stock's gone up, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to crash as people pull out. If you're going to run with the pack, you're going to get no value. If you're going to use your noggin and your AI architectural engineering and not rely on someone else and get lazy, you're going to do really well. If you're going to get lazy, then you'll just be another me too. Good luck with that. You'll hover in just below the subnet average of earnings and success in your life. And that's not what we're about.
I'd love to get Blake Sims on the podcast. He's been instrumental. I know he's influenced definitely Matt. And then as a byproduct, Matt told me about it, and I've just been obsessed with his teachings. The way that he approaches it is very analytical, but his reasoning is sound, and it's very much the 80-20 rule of, okay, if I do 80% of my time in planning, I don't have errors. I don't have this random thing where it just gets lost for half an hour and waste tokens. Yes, it's not fun work, but it's the work that needs doing. And the work works more on you than it works on it. So just putting in that 80% to do the planning, like I spent probably about 2.5 hours just working with it to develop the PRD. And then I gave it to Claude, and the output is significantly better. But it's taking the time. It's not delegating the thinking in the actual, I think you said it best before, the subject matter expert. Like, I know what I want. I know what I need. I know what frameworks to use. I just needed to put into a Word or put into a document that can easily describe and structure the play-by-play, almost like a project manager for the AI.
Yeah, I took a leaf out of Matt's book with the linear stuff. So I'd been using linear ad hoc a little bit. I started using it when I was building something else and wanted just to go through and do user testing and catalog all the bugs that needed fixing. But since then I've evolved it, and now across 6 different projects that I'm running that have got their own like linear codes before. But when I wanted to do my last dev project, I did what you said. I worked with Claude and wrote out a whole full spec PRD. Then I went into Claude Code and said, hey, review the PRD, and then let's develop the build plan. And it broke it up into milestones with issues and waves for development into linear. And so then it used linear as its checkpoint, and then it worked through the linear tasks. And when it finished a milestone, it goes, cool, all right, we've done this. I do some testing. I'm happy with milestone 1. All right, set up the task list for milestone 2. And then it would go and build out all the issues ready to run through. And so it was using that as that sort of system of record of what to do next and building out all the issues. It's been phenomenal. And then because that's tied back in with all my other co-work and stuff, co-work when I've got my sort of daily rhythms and my pulses going on, it reviews and tells me where all my projects are up to.
Yeah.
David, can I just change tack just for a bit? We've only got a couple of minutes left. Something you texted all us this morning, which you spotted in the media, which I missed, and it's about the rise and fall of AI, similar to telco and software and cloud and everything else. What did we talk about? The trough of the excitement of adoption, the trough of disillusionment, and then we settle with a reality somewhere. And kind of like video streaming. When I first got my first streaming TV stations, I was wrapped. And then, of course, I find I'm streaming 30 different TV stations, and it's costing me a fortune, and the quality of my TV has not gone up. So the interesting one is with AI and AI subscriptions, we're getting so many of them. And as you said, they're asking us to use more and more tokens, and it's becoming a new sinkhole for money. What does everyone think about that?
That is a big topic. And
yeah, just throw it in. We'll come back to it next week. It's only 1 minute to go.
There's actually one line from that thing that I think is worth mentioning. It's the one that I made reference to in that message that Dave sent us, and it was in the summary of Old Mate's full talk thing. And basically it said, you know, the closing line of this author, he basically was summarizing that AI is game changing, but the current crop of companies funding it won't be the ones who profit from it.
Yeah, good comment.
It's the ones that, you know, build systems around it and that sort of thing. So the whole token use thing, you know, if we're fully usage based on API costs and those API costs rise and fall, we have no control over that. There's no unit economics there to like scale off. But for the ones that are using subscription costs, like what you just said, Richard, the subscription costs can be insanely exploited right now.
Yeah,
I use that word.
I think Kat just mentioned absolute tokens are going to be the new commodity or the new monetary.
Yeah. Like the max plans that you get from these different companies, they lose money on those plans. Like they 100% do. And if you can commercialize your value you get from that subscription, you've got multipliers better margins than if you did it directly through API costs.
Yeah. Actually, I saw a video over the weekend, and it had a particular role, a processing role that was quite clear. And it had, you know, this much money we'd pay an employee to do that. And then it spoke about an LLM doing it and how many tokens it used to do that role. And the cost of the human doing it was like $150,000 a year. And the cost of the LLM and the tokens doing it was $335 for the year.
Yeah.
So the revolution's here, but we've got to be careful we don't, like with cloud, we all end up with bill shock and we flip over the edge into some of these crazy subscriptions. And like Kat said, someone with a smart brain, maybe me, is going to do a new financial transaction engine like Bitcoin, but it relates to AI tokens.
I think the thing is just, and yeah, we can dive, Matt wrote a lot. It's like a 10,000 word essay. It's massive. And we can come back to it maybe in more depth next week. But one of the things he made the point is these subscriptions aren't sustainable. And so there will be a point where we get the sticker shock where they're going to start charging us per token API pricing. But, and you know, he's called it like insert coins and PRAI. Like you just like that luck of the draw, will you get the result you need, or are you going to be spinning the wheel 5 times to get the right output you want, like the video generation and so on. But at the end of the day though, like you said, like if you've got a fully loaded cost of an employee, even if you do have to burn some tokens, is there a relative benefit still to AI? We've been spoiled by going, yeah, these things are $20, they're $100 for a month, I can do unlimited things. But even if, you know, it becomes $5,000 a month, is that still going to be cheaper than, you know, having 5 people in an engineering team? Yes.
Absolutely.
And so
yeah, the benefits,
it's going to be that cost benefit analysis.
And we'd love to work with some of our, we like to work with some of our customers on a real ROI, because guess what? We're all going to start with very basic processes. Some of the things we talk about here are very cerebral and the high end of thinking and planning and changing for competitive advantage. But the general, let's reduce the cost of my business ROI against any of these tokens is still thousands of percent.
100%. That actually rapes into, I don't know if you guys want to wrap it here, but there's I talk about habits a lot, and I've got a little like stinger quote here, bit of a spicy line, like stop designing AI systems just in calling it that. You need to start designing business habits. AI is just the execution layer.
Yeah, new ways of working. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that a lot, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's you're solving a problem. AI is a tool, and as we know, a lot of the workflow stuff isn't even AI based. I think someone did a study of all the N8N, like thousands and thousands of N8N instances, and 90% of N8N workflows had no AI in them. They're just deterministic. If this, then that. If nodes had a much higher usage rate, JavaScript code nodes had a much higher usage rate than any AI nodes in N8N. So and understand the workflows, maybe AI has a place, maybe it doesn't, but it comes back to let's solve the business problem and go from there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, do you want to dance us out, Sir Leader? Dave?
Yes. Sorry, I'm just dodging train notifications that are coming in through my speakers. Oh, that's a weird angle. There we go. Hello. This is me on a train.
hello.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Apologies for my hit and miss thing, but I am working with a not-for-profit, so it's for a good cause that you've had to deal with weird travel, Dave. But
You're a
thank
good man,
you, guys.
Dave.
Good chats. I hope the audience got some value from it. Thank you for all in the live chat, Sean, Catherine, Joe, for joining us and chatting, and anyone else who joined us and was too shy to chat, you can jump in next time. But thank you, gentlemen. We'll wrap it there, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good luck. See you guys. See you, everyone.
Yeah.